boy, Greg Bedard, are you there?
I am here. Do you hear me?
Oh,
We
wow,
hear
you actually
you,
sound
yes.
good for once.
Okay, Greg Bedard from the Boston Sports Journal wrote a story the other day setting the record straight on, well, the Patriots coaching staff, which we were just discussing. And I will say, Greg, that the story turned my world upside down because I was under the impression things just were not that way. But you're here to clarify. We gave you our thoughts on it yesterday. So the floor is yours, Greg. Where do you want to start with this?
I'm all ears.
Well, I couldn't listen to all of it because my gasket blew pretty early, and then I heard you on BST last night as well, basically trashing my story. So I actually just posted a little bit more context and a little bit of a counter on BSJ, but now I'm here. I mean, I guess let's start with this. Number one, Mazz calling it Patriots propaganda. I mean, come on, Mazz. I mean, how long have you known me? How long have you known the way I do my job? Do you think I'm just, I'm not one of these Herald hacks who just takes, one person calls me or two people and then I just run with it. Like, I talk to, I don't know, between 12 and 18, 20 people between the Senior Bowl, between team sources, because what happened was when we were on last Tuesday and you ran my audio all week, I told you at the time, which you conveniently left out later in the week, I told you my opinion last week was not informed. I tried. I was trying to get people, but due to the schedule and them staffing and all that stuff, it was hard to get people on the phone. I was able to get in front of some people at the Senior Bowl, a lot of league executives, people who know McDaniels, people who know Vrabel, people who know both of them. So I was able to report it out a little bit more. But obviously, I was insulted to hear that you think that my piece was propaganda, because that's just not the way I do things.
So, Greg, I know it's not the way you do things, and I said this over and over again. When I use the term Patriots propaganda, I'm implying that it's coming from the Patriots. So I have been in your spot. I don't begrudge you for writing it. It felt to me like every point that we made it's almost like they went into someone in their organization put together a checklist and said, we are going to shoot down point by point as we go along. That's what it felt like to me. That's what it felt like to me from their perspective. Listen, I've been in your spot. I've done what you do, so I know what that is. And I said over and over again, I am not calling out Greg Bedard. If you took it that way, I'm sorry for that. That's not what I wasn't taking on you. I think the Patriots, or whoever speaks for the Patriots, is very sensitive to this idea, and with good reason, because they've done it in the past.
I understand that, and I understand how it looks that my reporting basically refuted things point by point, and there's a reason for that, because I offered up a lot of those points last Tuesday when I was on, and again, and I said it at the time, it was not an informed opinion. It was basically me looking from 10,000 feet at what the Patriots were doing, staffing on that side of the ball, and all the questions that you guys had or the points that you were making, I had made, and basically I spent the last week to 10 days going to people and being like, this is what I think. Is that true or not? Is it accurate? Is it fair? And so that's the way it came out in the story, because I was just going from what I had said on radio last week and on my podcast as well. I will say that I didn't talk to, the normal people that you would think, that you probably think, whether it's PR or whatever. I didn't talk to any of those type of people. I never heard from those type of people, whether it's Stacey James or what have you. Normally the people who are countering any sort of craft discussion. I didn't talk to those type of people. These were all football people inside and outside the organization. Now, as far as Mike goes, of course, Mike gets a hold of the story, and because he doesn't like the story, he just picks out certain things that were, I admit, the weaker part of my story that made it easy for Felger to point at it and cast aspersion on my story as a whole. He's an expert at that. I understand that. I just want to go over a couple of those things, okay? Number one, Mike kept pounding where I wrote, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly where McDaniels fell on Vrabel's list of prospective offensive coordinators, but there's no doubt that McDaniels was high in the list. I was just being truthful. Like, I tried to talk to Vrabel at the Senior Bowl. He wouldn't talk to me. I can't look into his mind to know exactly where McDaniels was on the list. All I could tell you is from talking to the people, Arthur Smith seems to me like he was definitely number one on Vrabel's list. If he could work together with him, that's something that he was interested in. That wasn't going to happen. Now, the Tommy Rees component of this, nobody mentioned his name to me, so that's where it comes into it's hard to pinpoint. Was Tommy Rees number 2? Some people threw water on that, saying like he's not ready for that. He's in a good spot in Cleveland, sort of being under Stefanski, and he can learn. That's sort of what he needed to do. Multiple people told me that McDaniels and Vrabel talked multiple times last year. I think Bert told you that as well last night. And to me, somebody who was very close to Vrabel said, once it was clear like Arthur wasn't an option, it was Josh. And it was Josh because of the stability and also the quarterback component of this, his ability to develop Drake May.
Can I stop you there, Greg? Don't you find it odd then that if McDaniels was the next choice, that he runs a different system? If your first choice is Arthur Smith, who runs Shanahan-McVay, then wouldn't the second choice be someone who runs Shanahan-McVay? I mean, it was really that much about the guy, not the system? That feels unusual to me.
Yeah, I know, and I agree. And your points about that, including, mocking me talking about the McVay-Shanahan tree last night, which I admit was probably the weakest part of my story, and you latched onto it, so good job by you. What I should have done was a little bit more homework, which I have done in the last day. And really, to inform you on Vrabel's hiring with the Patriots, you need to go back to what he did with the Titans. So it's easy for us, and I thought the same thing. You look, he hired McVay, LaFleur, excuse me. And then Arthur Smith basically ran the same scheme. They changed up the running scheme a bit to more wide zone under Arthur Smith. And they kept that going forward. They basically had the Titans playbook, and even though LaFleur left, they kept with it I was told it was for consistency reasons. But so I understand that, and I thought the same thing. But doubling back on people in Tennessee over the last day, the way they arrived at LaFleur was completely happenstance. That was not Vrabel saying, that's the scheme I want to run. That's the offense that I've had the most trouble with defending. That's not the way it went down. What happened was when John Robinson, the general manager, interviewed for offensive coordinator candidates, he interviewed Vrabel, LaFleur, and Steve Wilks. And he ended up hiring Vrabel. Vrabel wanted Ryan Day. Ryan Day was his number one, wanted to bring him from Ohio State to be his offensive coordinator. That's not the West Coast. That's not McVay. That's not Shanahan. That's Chip Kelly. That's something completely different. And when they could not get Ryan Day, he went back to Ohio State, eventually became head coach. It was Robinson who told Vrabel, you should really talk to this guy. He's really bright. And Vrabel was like, I don't know him at all, but they talked, and that's how they got to that. So in a lot of ways, what Vrabel did the first time around in Tennessee is very similar to what he's done in New England, where maybe he wanted Arthur Smith, but it quickly arrived at Josh McDaniels.
So it's really about the guy, not the system for Mike.
Yes. Absolutely, 100%.
And so, again, that piece where it seems that he is soured on the West Coast system, or looked at the...
Now, I didn't... You said that yesterday. I never said that. I never put Vrabel in with that section about the Shanahan tree sort of taking a step back this year. That was just me. That wasn't anything... I never said that Vrabel has soured. I think I said some have soured or something like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. As far as Vrabel's perceived preference for the McVay-Shanahan offense, that was simply not true, and the effectiveness of that tree has been called into question since the Niners, Dolphins, Bengals, Colts, Cardinals, et cetera, have missed the playoffs. So you don't directly...
Yeah, that's from talking to league sources that, at the Senior Bowl, they're just like, maybe that thing's not all it's cracked up to be. Maybe people are catching up to it, that sort of thing.
It just feels much to me, Greg, but I have this snarky tone, but, as I said, I could have it all wrong. It's hard for me, Greg, to really have full faith in the decision-making down there and that they're on the level after what's gone on the last 5 years, because they've made so many bad choices and thrown together so many bad hires together, and they didn't let Bill O'Brien pick his staff, and they didn't let Gerard Mayo didn't pick his staff. That's partly on Mayo. He wasn't ready to go. But you've been following this thing for years. Yeah. The staffing and the hiring has been a mess for going on 4 or 5 years now. So now I have to just turn around and believe ownership had nothing to do with it. This was Mike Vrabel's guy from the start. Money wasn't a factor because McDaniels is getting a true salary, and there's wonderful synergy, as you quoted someone, a team source is saying there's wonderful synergy on that side of the ball, said a team source. They are all in 100% lockstep. It's been great so far. After what's gone on the last 4 or 5 years, it's a lot for me to swallow, big fella. I got to tell you.
I understand it, and I agree with you. And let me make one point, because you also brought up about McDaniels not hearing his name. When I brought up about him possibly being considered at other places and why that never really happened. Well, for one thing, I don't think McDaniels was eager to go to say an existing head coach who fired their offensive coordinator, sort of like the Rams thing that he did with Spagnuolo. I don't think he was in a rush to do that. The other big thing was McDaniels was hired by the Patriots on January 21st because they got to jump on everything with the Vrabel situation. None of the other new head coaches were appointed until after that. Ben Johnson was hired on the 21st. Glenn the 22nd. Schottenheimer, Cohen, and Carroll were all on the 24th. McDaniels was already hired in New England by then. But I understand where you're coming from. I don't completely disagree with it. And I will tell you this, and I didn't put this in my story because I tried to make it more of a story than my opinion. But, I will say, do I think things are 100% copacetic there, that everything is awesome, that there's nothing to the staffing thing around McDaniels? No. I know what people are telling me, but I also have my gut instinct from covering the league for over 20 years on how things look. But at the bottom line is to believe that, say, Vrabel, and I even said this last Tuesday, okay? When I said I think Vrabel might be going along to get along with the Krafts. Again, that was uninformed at the time. To believe that, you have to believe that Mike Vrabel would be okay upending Drake May after year 2, leading to a third straight different system, a third straight different coordinator, and I just have a hard time seeing that. I really do.
Okay. See, I mean, look, this part of it to me, Greg, I'm just giving you my 2 cents, is a little gray. Like, I don't think Vrabel hates Josh McDaniels. I think Vrabel's okay with Josh McDaniels.
He clearly signed off on it.
Yeah. Honestly. Like, I'm just telling you, I don't think it was his first choice. That's all. And I think the Krafts laid it out to him. In fact, I think I said this yesterday, that the way I perceive the thing is, hey, do what you want, poke around. We like Josh. If it lines up with Josh, let's go with Josh. And so, now look, again, he wasn't going to get Arthur Smith out of Pittsburgh. He wasn't, Tommy Reese got protected by Cleveland because they promoted him to coordinator. So there wasn't any obvious experienced candidate out there beyond that. So, okay, fine, I'll go with McDaniels. But I just don't think it was. I know how the Patriots operate. This is my problem. I know how all the organizations in this town operate. And so I got my antenna up all the time. That's all. And so as they went through, or the story went through point by point and refuted everything we said, I thought, well, this is a little too convenient. That's all, Greg.
Do you think I liked writing basically like completely counter to what I said on Tuesday before? No, I didn't love it. And, a couple other points I wanted to make, the staffing. Now, yeah, I don't love that McDaniels doesn't have any of his guys. And there's 4 Titans guys on the staff. The way it was explained to me by multiple people was anybody Josh would want, they can't get. And that's just the bottom line. Also, refuting sort of the timeline or as far as ownership's involvement, I could understand that more, but I know for a fact that Vrabel and McDaniels talked multiple times over this past season about possibly hooking up together. So it wasn't just Vrabel comes in, talks to the Crafts, gets the job, and they say, we want you to Josh should be number one on your list. I just don't think that holds up. And also the Titans guys, Vrabel and McDaniels have been in lockstep on all the hirings. Like Vrabel even took himself out of the Todd Downing interviews. It was all McDaniels had to sign off on all these guys. And from what I understand, from what he's told other people, he's really excited about this group. He thinks it's a really good coaching staff, and he might even be a little bit energized by having different people around him.
Okay, real quick. They are going to run Josh McDaniels' system, right?
100% with the terminology, yes.
And does that mean the gap power control running system versus the wide zone?
Yeah, I mean, they'll go back to the Patriots running a variety of stuff. They always did, depending on the opponent and the game. They always changed up, whether it was power or inside zone, or they even ran some wide zone at times. So yeah, that's what they're going to do. They are going back to McDaniels' terminology, but he's also, people have said, be prepared to see a lot different Josh McDaniels offense after all the different things he studied in the last year.
So, and Greg, I would ask, how big an adjustment or change is that for Drake May?
It's not going to be that much. Just remember, a lot of these guys, especially if this team gets younger, they're all going to be starting from square one. And we saw that in Mac Jones's rookie year. Mac came from a different sort of offense and a pro-style offense and had probably a little bit of more of a pro aptitude than Drake May did. But Josh and Mike Vrabel they're not going to do anything that he can't do. I don't think there's going to be any issue. And in fact, I think eventually once he earns the keys at the line of scrimmage and things like that, I think it's going to open up his game even more.
Scarnecchia more of a factor this year, Greg?
Yeah, and that's, it depends on who you talk to. Some people will say that he's going to have a decent sized role. Other people are just like, he might be around. He might come around if they need them. He has a long relationship with Marrone. I think since they're going back to the old system, it wouldn't be a surprise if, especially in the offseason, Dante is around to help Marrone and Huftalling, the assistant offensive line coach, sort of learn the system and things like that, which I think brings a level of comfort to the coaching staff.
Okay, Greg Bedard, Boston Sports Journal. Anything else? Anything else you want to get to?
That's it.
Get off your chest. Anything else?
I think that's it for my airing of grievances.
Okay.
Do I have to go to my room without any supper?
Yes.
Yes.
I knew it.
No gumbo for you tonight, Mazz.
Mazz used language that I wasn't going to use, Greg. I did. I said it from the start. I said
What?
that. But if you put my quotes into print, I didn't really say anything. You'd have to listen for the tone to pick
you
up.
were. You were very deft at what you did yesterday.
I know.
Thank you.
Very good.
Then it's just nice that you are completely ballless.
That's true. All right, Greg, thanks. We appreciate it.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.